Recently, on 9 June 2024, at approximately 6:15 in the evening in the Reasi district of Jammu division of Jammu and Kashmir, several unidentified militants armed with firearms ambushed open fire on a passenger bus boarded by Hindu pilgrims traveling from the Shivkhori cave, a famous cave shrine of Hindu devoted to Lord Shiva, to Katra. In this indiscriminately gunshot, the bus driver was struck by gunfire, causing them to lose control and plunge into a gorge. This ambush happened about an hour before Narendra Modi took the oath as Prime Minister third time. The Resistance Front, which is an arm of terrorist organizations, initially claimed responsibility for the ambush but later denied involvement, while the Jammu and Kashmir police believed that the ambush was carried out by the Lashkar-e-Taiba, of which the TRF is considered a front. Most of the time, terrorist targets military forces or military personnel or military-related things. It is also been said it is a fight between military forces and terrorists, because military forces guard the nation's borders and the terrorists across the border tries to enter through the borders illegally or through finding the loopholes on the borders. And the fight takes place between the military forces, as the military forces are responsible to guard their nation's borders and the terrorists in order to intrude from across the borders. But time to time, terrorists who got succeed in entering through the borders, they are targeting the common people by gunfiring strictly or by planting bomb in public places like markets, malls, railway stations, vehicles and many other places, hijacking planes, ships and other ways. Suicide bombing is also one of the way where the terrorists use. Sometimes terrorist targets famous personality, whether leaders, officers, businessmen or any other personality, irrespective of their fields. And this is the list of terrorist incidents in India from 1980 to till now. Assassination of Rajiv Gandhi, the former Prime Minister of India. In this assassination, suicide bombing strategy was used in 1991 in Chennai, Tamil Nadu. Mumbai has been common targets for terrorist organizations, many operating with a base from Pakistan. Over the past few years, there have been a series of attacks. The 1993 serial bomb blast had shaken the whole Mumbai and Maharashtra as well. And nobody forgets about 26/11 Mumbai attacks, where the Pakistani-based terrorists targets the common citizens in railway stations, hotels, pedestrians. This also shook the Mumbai and the whole India as well. In 2000, the massacre of Amarnath pilgrimage, where at least 89 Hindu pilgrims were massacred and many others got injured. This was a coordinated attacks by Kashmiri separatist militants in Anantnag and Doda district, Kashmir Valley in India. Akshardham temple attack of 2002, where multiple Pakistani terrorists attacked the Akshardham temple complex in Gandhinagar, Gujarat in India. The Ahmedabad bombing of 2008, where a series of 21 bomb blasts that hit Ahmedabad. Within a span of 70 minutes, a series of 21 bomb blasts were happened. 56 people were killed and over 200 people were injured. The Indian Mujahideen terrorist outfit claimed the responsibility of this blast. And if I talk about in Delhi, there the terrorist attack happened. In 1996, Lajpat Nagar blast, which was occurred in Lajpat Nagar market, killed many civilians. In 2000, Red Fort terrorist attacks, which was carried out by the Pakistani terrorist organization Lashkar-e-Taiba. Indian Parliament attack of 2001. On 13 December 2001, terrorists attacked the Parliament of India, resulting to this attack in a 45-minute gun battle. 9 policemen and parliamentarian staff were killed. All 5 terrorists were gunned down by the security forces and were identified as Pakistani nationals. Time to time, terrorist targets military camps or military forces. Some major attack where military camps were targeted by terrorists. Now here we will talk about some major attack where military camps were targeted by the terrorists. The first is 2016 Pathankot Air Base attack. On the night of 31st December 2015 at 9 p.m., 4 men who had crossed the international border from the Pakistan and reached the Indian side stopped at taxi drivers on the road. There was an attempt to hijack his car, but he fought back, leading to the hijackers killing him by slitting his throat. Unfortunately, the tires of the hijacked car burst after covering some distance. The armed men then proceeds to hijack a multi-utility vehicle belonging to Salvinder Singh, a superintendent of Punjab Police in Dinanagar. However, the Punjab Police Department refused to believe the abductor report provided by SP Salvinder Singh after he was released by the attackers. And on the morning of 1st January 2016 at around 3:30 according to Indian Standard Time, at least 6 heavily armed people dressed in Indian Army uniforms breached the high security perimeters of airbase in Pathankot. The gun battle and the subsequent combing operation lasted about 17 hours on 2nd January, resulting in 5 attackers and 3 security personnel dead. And the second is the Uri attack of 2016. Since 2015, the insurgents had increasingly taken to high-profile Fidain attack, which is a suicide attack of terrorists against Indian security forces. In July 2015, three insurgents attacked a bus and police station in Gurdaspur, and early in 2016, terrorists attacked the Pathankot Air Force Station. Also, since 8 July 2016, the Indian-administered Jammu and Kashmir had been undergoing continuous unrest following the killing of Burhan Wani, a local militant of the Hizbul Mujahideen. The killing sparked violent protests against the Indian government in the valley, leading to the protests being described as the largest anti-India protest against the ruling government. At around 5:30 in the morning on 18 September 2016, four insurgents attacked an Indian Army Brigade headquarters in Uri near the line of control in a pre-dawn ambush. They were said to have dropped 17 grenades in 3 minutes. As a rear administrative base camp with tents caught fire, 17 army personnel were killed during the attack. An additional 19 to 30 soldiers were reported to have been injured. A gun battle ensured lasting 6 hours, during which all the 4 individuals were killed. And the third is the Pulwama attack of 2019. On 14 February 2019, a convoy of 78 vehicles transporting more than 2,500 Central Reserve Police Force personnel from Jammu to Srinagar was traveling on National Highway 44. The convoy had left Jammu around 3:30 early in the morning and was carrying a large number of personnel due to the highway having been shut down for 2 days prior. The convoy was scheduled to reach its destination before sunset at Lethpura near Avantipura in the Pulwama district around 3:15 in the afternoon. A bus carrying security personnel was rammed by a car carrying explosives. It caused a blast which killed 40 CRPF personnel of the 76th Battalion and injured many others. Pakistani-based militant group Jaish-e-Mohammed claimed responsibility for the attack. These were a few major incidents of recent past where security personnel were targets by terrorists. Otherwise, most of the region of Jammu and Kashmir, which are very close to the line of controls, in those areas security personnel and military camps are majorly targeted by the terrorists. Here we will try to understand the motive of terrorists behind attacking on pilgrims or common peoples. The main objectives of terrorism is to use of violence to create a general climate of fear among the masses so that they can achieve their particular objectives. Terrorism has been practiced by political organizations with both rightist and leftist objectives, by nationalistic and religious groups, by revolutionaries, and even by state institutions such as armies, intelligence services, and police. The perfect example is the Inter-Service Intelligence Agency of Pakistan, and its army uses these tactics against India time and again. This kind of activities, that is violence activities, have been done during peacetime or in the context of war against non-combatants, which are mostly civilians and neutral military personnel, to achieve political or ideological aims. Modern terrorism employs various tactics to pursue political goals, often leveraging fear as a strategic tool to influence decision makers. In order to achieve this, they targeted densely populated public areas such as transportation hubs, airports, shopping centers, tourist attraction, and nightclub venue. Terrorists aim to instill widespread insecurity, prompting policy changes through psychological manipulation and undermining confidence in security measures. Basically, the types of terrorism are varying country to country, the political system, and the time in history. In early 1975, the Law Enforcement Assistance Administration in the United States formed the National Advisory Committee on Criminal Justice Standards and Goals. The task force defines terrorism as a tactics or techniques by means of which a violent act or the threat thereof is used for the prime purpose of creating overwhelming fear for coercive purposes, and it classified disorders and terrorism into 7 categories. These are the 7 categories. The first is civil disorders. Civil disorder is a form of collective violence interfering with the peace, security, and normal functioning of the community. The second is political terrorism. Political terrorism is a violent criminal behavior designed primarily to generate fear in the community or substantial segment of it for political purposes. The third is non-political terrorism. Non-political terrorism is a kind of terrorism that is not aimed at political purposes but which exhibits concepts designed to create and maintain a high degree of fear for coercive purposes, but the end is individual or collective gain rather than the achievement of a political objectives. The fourth is anonymous terrorism. In the 2 decades prior to 2016 to 19, fewer than half of all terrorist attacks were either claimed by their perpetrators or convincingly attributed by government to specific terrorist groups. Number fifth is quasi-terrorism. This kind of terrorism is very similar to those of the genuine terrorists but whose purpose are quite different. The sixth is limited political terrorism. Genuine political terrorism is characterized by a revolutionary approach. Limited political terrorism refers to acts of terrorism which are committed to ideological or political motives but which are not part of a concerted campaign to capture control of the state. The seventh is official or state terrorism. State terrorism is referring to nations whose rule is based upon the fear and oppression that is similar to terrorism or such proportions. It may be referred to as structural terrorism, defined broadly as terrorist act carried out by governments in pursuit of political objectives, often as part of their foreign policy. And one thing which is important, that the religious terrorism has been playing an important role in promoting the terrorism. According to the Global Terrorism Index by the University of Maryland College Park, religious extremism has overtaken national separatism and become the main driver of terrorist attacks around the world. Since 9/11, there has been five-fold increase in deaths from the terrorist attacks. The majority of incidents over the past several years can be tied to groups with religious agenda. The prevalence of Islamist groups in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nigeria, and Syria is the main driver behind this. In order to attract and maintain the publicity, it is necessary to generate widespread fear. Terrorists must engage in increasingly dramatic, violent, and high-profile attacks. The methods of fear and violence are hijackings, hostage takings, kidnappings, mass shootings, car bombing, and frequently suicide bombings. Although apparently random, the victims and location of terrorist attacks often are carefully selected for their shock value. Schools, shopping centers, bus and train stations, and restaurants and nightclubs have been targeted, both because they attract vast large crowds and because they are the places with which members of civilian population are familiar and in which they feel at ease. The goal of terrorism generally is to destroy the public sense of security in the place most familiar to them. Major targets sometimes also include buildings or other locations that are important economic or political symbols such as embassies or military installations. The hope of the terrorists is that the sense of terror these acts in danger will induce the population to pressure political leaders towards a specific political ends. The main question comes here is that why terrorists target tourists and pilgrims? In any country, tourists and pilgrims plays an important role in boosting the local economy and development at a micro level, which boosts the country economy and development at macro level. Because of these tourists and pilgrims, locals gets employment which helps in raising their living standard. But some anarchist element in the society don't like this because it is easy for them to attract the poor people, unemployment youth, so that they can influence them to establish their dominance in the society. Sometimes these elements are politically influenced because their political ideology do not match with the ruling political party and target the tourists and pilgrims. Pilgrims and tourists are easy targets. If we talk about India, since the pilgrimages to the Vaishno Devi temple and Amarnath shrines involved in such a large number, and it is virtually impossible to secure the safety of each and every single participants. Now the recent terrorist attack in a pilgrim's bus in the Reasi district of Jammu and Kashmir might be a hidden message to the ruling government or wanted to tarnish the image of the ruling government by attacking on the pilgrims, because the attack was done an hour before the oath ceremony of Prime Minister Modi consecutive third time. Because this was the government who abrogated the Article 370 from Jammu and Kashmir, which is not supported by many political parties, separatist groups and other militant groups, and in retaliation they targeted the pilgrims. And now here we need to understand what are the causes that motivated terrorism. There may be specific political or social causes like independence and separatist movement, as this activity happens in Jammu and Kashmir where the locals youth are influenced by these separatist leaders and motivated them to pelting stones on security forces. This kind of movement lead to locals to a wrong path. This separatism is basically done on the basis of the cultural, ethnic, tribal, religious, racial, regional, governmental or gender separation from the larger group. Irredentist movements also play an important role in motivating the terrorism. Basically, in such irredentist movement, one state's desire to annex the territory of another state. This desire can be motivated by ethnic reasons because the population of the territory is ethnically similar to the population of the parent state. Historically, regions may also be responsible. Non-state actors play an important role in this. For example, most of the separatist groups in Kashmir Kashmirs wanted to merge the Kashmir part of India into Pakistan and do illegal activities in that part. Adoption of a particular political philosophy such as socialism, that is left-wing terrorism, anarchism or fascism, play an important role in motivating the terrorism. In a name of environment protection, which is called eco-terrorism, motivated the terrorism. Eco-terrorism is basically an act of violence which is committed to support of environmental causes against people or property. Supremacism of a particular group. Supremacism is the belief that a certain group of people is superior to all others. The supposed superior people can be defined by age, gender, race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, language, social class, ideology, nationality, culture, or belong to any other part of the particular population. Subjugation of a particular population or occupying a particular territory. Terrorism could be used to frighten them. Spread or dominance of a particular religion, which is known as religious terrorism. It is a type of religious violence where terrorism is used as a strategy to achieve certain religious goals or which are influenced by religious beliefs or identity. Ending perceived government oppression. Oppression is like a malicious or unjust treatment of or exercise of power over a group of individuals, often in the form of governmental authority or cultural opprobrium. Oppression refers to indiscrimination when the injustice does not target and may not directly afflict everyone in society, but instead targets or disproportionately impacts a specific group of people. When the authoritarian government use oppressions to subjugate the people, they want their citizenry to feel that pressing down and to live in fear that if they displease the authorities, they will, in a metaphorical sense, be squeezed and suffocated. Such government oppress the people using restrictions, control, terror, hopelessness, and despair. The tyrant's tool of the oppression include extremely harsh punishment for unpatriotic statement, developing a secret police force, prohibiting freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, freedom of press, controlling the monetary system and economy, and imprisoning or killing activists or other leaders who might pose a threat to their power. Responding to a violent act, for example, tit-for-tat attacks in the Israeli-Palestinian conflicts. In the West Asia and Middle East Asia, this kind of violent activities has been done by the respective states as they use militant groups against one another. Various personal and social factors may influence the personal choice of whether to join terrorist group or attempt an act of terror. These factors are identity, the set of qualities, beliefs, personality traits, appearance or expression that characterize a person or a group, affiliation with a particular culture, ethnicity or religion. Previous exposure to violence as have been seen in many parts in those countries, especially some African countries, Pakistan, Middle East and other Western Asian countries. Financial rewards also influence the terrorism. For example, the Palestinian Authority market funds. Mental illness also play an important role in it as these people easily attracted toward the path of violence. Social isolation. Perception that the cause respond to profound injustice or indignity. Lone wolf terrorist activities have also been seen when a person is ready to die where the possibility of destruction is in a large scale. According to a report on the lone wolf terrorists, 43% of lone wolf terrorist activities were motivated by religious beliefs, 32% had pre-existing mental health disorders, 40% were unemployment at the time of their arrest or terrorist events, 19% subjectively experienced being disrespected by others, 14% experience being victims of verbal or physical assault.